Happy Friday. It's another day. It's another video. I'm so glad that you're here. I have like a topic that's just in my head today, and some of the things that I feel prompted to talk about also come up in some of the comments that you guys leave me. So we'll get into that in just a little bit, but I do want to thank you guys for being here. Your comments really mean so much to me. They're just confirmation for me, and I'm so glad that I get to do this every day and just share a little bit about who I am and what the Lord is doing in my life, and also to remind you that I'm just another girl that's just doing this thing and living life. And I don't know, I just want to encourage you. I hope that you guys see these videos as like a friend that is talking to you. That's literally how I see this, like I'm just chatting with a friend. But yeah, today's video, the word that's been coming up has been fire. And I see this in two ways. The first way is the fire that we have in our heart. In, like, for example, in this season, I just feel like I am on fire for the Lord. Like I want to pursue him. I want to do everything to honor him. I surrender my life to him. I submit my plans to him, and I'm like, Lord, whatever it is that you want me to do, like today, what is your plan for me today? Like, let me walk in your will. I want to shout it out in the rooftops, from the rooftops. I want to tell people about the goodness of God and just the fact that like he's going to use everything for your good. You just have to have faith and hope that he keeps his promises. And a lot of us, honestly, I feel like a lot of us don't even have a little ember. Like, so many of us have such a hardened heart that we don't see, our relationship with God in this way. I really pray that I never lose the fire. I pray that I can continue to pursue God this way and just seek him in everything that I do. But I know there's a lot of us that struggle. Maybe at some point you felt the fire and you've been kind of backsliding a little bit, or you feel some separation from the Lord. Maybe there is a little ember and you just need to spark that up, right? And the only way that I feel like we can do that is through doing the things that he's called us to do, which is to love him above all things, right? And to love him and to know him is to read the word and read the things that he's left for us, so that we may remember who he is and the fact that he just loves and cares for us so much. But then I was thinking about fire, right? And about what that means. I have read the book, The Bait of Satan. I don't know if you all are familiar with that book. I'll link it. Actually, I think it's linked in my Amazon storefront thing that I have in my description. But it's such a good book. There's a part in chapter 1 of that book that talks about fire and about what that really means. I don't know if you all have heard the song by... I think it's Maverick City. It's like, I want to be tried by fire, purified. Like, do y'all know what that means? Do you guys know what that means? Like, I used to sing that song because it was just like a song, right? That like, okay, it's good. And then I started thinking about the message, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what does that actually mean? So the way that I see it, and it's similar to how, what's his name? John Bevere talks about in The Bait of Satan, about how like, or this is the way like I interpret it, right? God sees us as like gold, okay? We are gold, okay? We are just, he sees us as this like precious metal, right? This pure substance that he's created, right? And pure gold is soft and pliable. Yet most of the time, when they find gold, it is hardened. And the things that harden gold are things like other metals, copper and things like that, that make it into, I think it's called like an alloy. I know nothing about this stuff, but it just follow along. So these impurities, right, are what make gold hard. And in order to purify it, in order to get to how it's meant to be in its purest form, it needs to go through fire so that the impurities will come out, so that it will reveal the pureness of the gold that's already there. Does that make sense? And I think about that, and then I think about that song, and I'm like, okay, so what does it mean to go through fire? Like, if we are God's gold and we are this precious, thing in his eyes, how do we get there? How do we get purified? How do we become more holy? How do we become more righteous? How do we improve? What does it mean that we're going to go through fire? What does it mean to be refined? It means that in order for the substances, these other metals, these things that are hardening our heart, to rise and to be removed from our lives, from our heart, we're going to go through trials. We are going to go through seasons where we are just like, Lord, what are you doing in this season? Lord, what does this mean? What are you trying to reveal? There's times when you could say, oh, I think I have forgiven this person for what they did. You prayed and you talked to God about it, and you're like, okay, I'm letting it go. And you had that one prayer where you're like, God, I'm giving it to you. I've forgiven them, Lord, thank you, right? And you're having this moment. And then what happens? That person all of a sudden, shows up in your life. They give you a call. You hear about something that they did. They send you a message. I don't know, whatever it is, right? And it triggers an emotion again. What does it mean? I feel like those seasons, sometimes God will use that to remind you that some of the impurities are still there. Those impurities that are hardening your heart, they're still there. And it's for us to understand and to grow through those seasons so that we may be released and freed of those things that are holding us back, that unforgiveness that was still in your heart. In my journey in the past, year or so, right? One of the things that I was very consistent in prayer was patience, specifically with my kids. I am a mom of 3, and I am also a recovering type A OCD mom, a helicopter mom. And there is a lot of me that was feeling like my kids, I would lose my patience with my kids because they want to do things on their own time, in their own way. And I'm like, no, you got to do it this way. You got to be this way. And so what happened was that I would get overwhelmed and I would lose my patience with them. These sweet, innocent children that are just being kids, right? They're literally at the purest form. And I am losing my patience with them because they're not doing things to my liking. And it was a really, it was just something that I knew that it was happening. Like, I knew that I was being snappy. I would get overwhelmed. Sometimes I would just get super emotional. And it was really hard. Like, I remember times when I would have to go and apologize to the kids because I was like, yeah, mommy was not very nice. Like, I'm sorry that I did that. I'm just feeling really tired, or I feel really overwhelmed, whatever the case. And I would pray and I would like, God, reveal it in this situation, what I have to do. And what's funny is that when you ask God to help you in certain things that you already know that you're struggling. For example, for me, it was patience. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask God to help me with my patience. Well, you know what God will do? He will put you in situations that will challenge that emotion so that he may convict you and help you see the things that you're doing that are causing that emotion to come out. So, for example, I was struggling with patience with my children. So I was continuously praying about, God, give me patience. And I noticed that during those initial months of doing this, I was constantly being tested and put in situations where I literally needed to practice patience. And it was in those situations that I felt that conviction of like, you're doing it again. Like, look what just happened. You're doing it again. The reason that you're feeling, and this was my revelation, the reason that you're feeling impatience with your children is because you're stuck in wanting to control everything. You're so focused on the task at hand that you forget who's doing it, that you forget that journey of doing it, that you forget all the blessings and the moments in the doing, because the task is not being completed at your liking. And those initial months, one of the things that I needed to do is like let go of expectations. I had very high expectations of everything, not just of myself, but of my children. I had to let go of control, because only God has control. I am not in control of my life. And in slowing down, I realized just how beautiful my children are, like how amazing God has made them in their own way. I have my middle child is a strong-willed child. He challenges me on the daily. And I see a lot of me in him. And I'm like, here I am feeling like, oh, he's driving me nuts. And I'm like, Lord, he is you, you know? And my sweet older one, my boy, like he's just a sweetheart, and he feels all of the emotions that anybody else feels. He feels them with you. And it's like, wow, like God, you've made this precious child with a beautiful heart who's just kind and loving and is empathetic, and, you know, and I'm holding him to a standard that is not his, and it's not right, you know? And I say all this stuff because sometimes you may believe that you're fine in that area, right? You're fine in whatever situation. And then all of a sudden life gets hard, and people can be quick. We can be quick to be like, God, why are you doing this? And I think that we need to change that to, God, what are you trying to teach me right now? What are you trying to teach me in this situation? Like, refine me. This is the fire. I'm in the fire right now, Lord. Reveal the impurities of my heart. Because that is the only way that I will grow. That is the only way that I may become pure and holy and righteous and be more like your son, Jesus. But we can't do that without going through the fire, without trials and tribulations. This walk that we're in is not meant to be easy. It's not in the Bible. Like, hey, once you follow Jesus, your life is going to be rainbows and butterflies. Like, that's not what happens. You know, there's so many scriptures that talk about how you have to endure with God. You can still go through those things, you know, that it's just not going to be easy. And yet he will use every experience, every hurt, every pain, all the suffering, all the goodness and the greatness and the joy and the mountains and the valleys and the good and the bad and the hurt and the tears and the laughter. He will use everything. But you have to trust that he knows what he's doing. You have to trust that there's something to be learned. You have to trust that sometimes waiting is hard, but there's a reason why there's a waiting period. There's a reason why he's not giving you the answer to the prayer. There's a reason why he may never answer that prayer. Our hearts can be so hardened by our past, Our hearts can be so hardened by the things that we're doing that we don't even realize until we're put through the fire, that you'll realize, man, I'm still struggling with that thing. The other day, 2 days ago, I think, the video that I mentioned about fear of failure, somebody made a comment about fear of rejection. And I'm like, you know what? That's what it is. I am struggling with this spirit of fear of rejection. And in just thinking about it, I can see why that is. And I can see why there's still that brokenness in me that I need to bring it to the Lord and say, God, heal me from that, because there's still crap in my heart. You know? There's still things that I need to break away from, that I need to be freed from. Because those things are holding me back from revealing the pure gold that God created in me, in you. So yesterday's video about getting uncomfortable. Like, you're not stuck, you're just comfortable. Somebody made a comment saying that they didn't agree with having to be uncomfortable. And I'm like, okay, I understand. You don't have to agree with everything that I say. I pray that I am aligning to God's word. But life is not going to be comfortable all the time. It's like saying you're never going to go through trials. Like, that is uncomfortable. If being obedient and heeding the call would be easy, then we would all be perfect and great. But we often don't do the things that we're being called to, and we're not obedient because either we're not listening, or we don't hear God's voice because we're just not close to him and we're lacking a relationship with him. Or two, we hear it, but we ignore it because it's uncomfortable, because it puts us in a place where we feel like we're not good enough. And if you've never felt uncomfortable in your life, then where is the growth? Where is the refinement? This isn't a woe is me, oh, it's just a bad season. Like, no, there's something to be learned in every situation that happens in our life. Some things are God's will. Like, some things God will put and will take us through so that we can learn something. And some things he allows the enemy to do because he can still use it for good. And some things are our choice. We put ourselves in situations that end up putting us in the wilderness for 40 years, if you know what I mean. There's a season where you're like, God, I don't know why I'm not in your will, God. Like, what is your plan for me? And it's like, sometimes we have to think, like, remember that time when I called you to do this, but you did this instead? He gives us free will for a reason. But when you realize it, he's always there. He's like, okay, I'm here. I've never let you go. And that situation that you went through, I still taught you something. You still grew. You have been refined just a little bit more. The impurities are leaving. So, yeah, life is going to be a little uncomfortable. We should want to be refined by the fire. Don't think you can skip that part of the song. Like, if you don't sing that part of the song, then you've missed the whole point. I just pray that this helps you in remembering that God will still use everything for your good. The season that you're in right now, that you're struggling so much in, he will still use. He will remove impurities. He will refine you through that fire. And in doing so, you will learn to love him more. You will learn that he is just a loving father who wants to teach his children, who wants to care for his children, who wants to bless his children, you will see that. And that fire in your heart will grow. And that fire in your heart will just never lose its flame. All right, I'm done, guys. We'll see you guys on Monday. Remember that I am taking weekends off now, just to be with family and enjoy the time with them. I hope today's message has blessed you. If you have not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. Okay, bye.